The deep space monitoring station floated in the darkness like a metal flower. Its sensors reached out into the void, watching for any sign of movement in the most dangerous part of known space. Admiral Vexithari stood before the main display screen, his scaled hands clasped behind his back. The void quarantine zone stretched out before them, a region of space where reality itself had been broken by ancient wars. For 800 years, nothing had come out of that zone alive. Ships that went in simply vanished. The space itself was wrong. Time moved in circles, gravity pointed up instead of down, and the laws of physics seemed to change their minds every few minutes. It was a graveyard of civilizations that had tried to use weapons too powerful for the universe to handle. "Sir," called out Sensor Officer Krillmoth from his station. His bug-like eyes were wide with confusion. "I'm getting readings from Sector 77 Alpha." Vexithari turned his large head toward the officer. "What kind of readings?" "Unknown vessels, sir. It just appeared." The Admiral's tail twitched with annoyance. "Appeared? Ships don't just appear in the quarantine zone. Check your sensors." Krillmoth's many arms moved quickly over his controls. "Sensors are working fine, sir. The ship is definitely there. It's broadcasting on standard communication frequencies." Vexithari walked quickly to the sensor station. On the screen, a green dot pulsed steadily in the heart of the dead zone. Around it, the swirling colors of broken space twisted and danced, but the ship sat calmly in the middle of it all. "How big?" Vexithari asked. "About 400 meters long, sir. Design is completely unknown. And, sir—" Krillmoth paused, his voice uncertain. "It's hailing us." The Admiral felt his blood grow cold. In 800 years, nothing had ever tried to communicate from inside the zone. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at the strangest being Vexithari had ever seen. It was tall and thin, with pale skin and dark hair. Most strange of all, it was smiling. "Hello there," the being said in a friendly voice. The universal translator worked, but it seemed to struggle with some of the words. "This is Captain Lee Jihoon of the Terran Federation vessel Soul's Pride. We're looking for directions to the nearest space station. Our navigation system is acting up a bit." The bridge fell silent. Every alien on the station stared at the screen. Finally, Vexithari found his voice. You're inside the void quarantine zone." Captain Jihoon looked confused. "The what zone? We haven't seen any warning signs. Is this a no parking area or something?" Communications Officer Yilandra leaned forward. "Sir, no ship has survived entry into that zone for 8 centuries. How did you get there?" The human scratched his head. "We took a shortcut through some rough space. Had to detour around a really big storm system about a week ago. This seemed like the quickest way through." Vexithari exchanged looks with his officers. A week ago, sensors had detected a massive reality storm in a neighboring sector. Every ship within 50 light years had fled in terror. This human was saying he had flown through it on purpose. "Captain Jihoon," Vexithari said carefully, "the region you're in is extremely dangerous. How is your ship intact?" The human shrugged. "It got a bit bumpy for a while. We lost our coffee maker during that purple lightning thing. Our engineer? Yuna is pretty upset about that. She really likes her morning coffee." On the screen behind the human, other crew members moved around casually. One of them, a woman with short black hair, walked past carrying what looked like a damaged piece of equipment. She waved cheerfully at the camera. "That's Commander Park Minji," Jihoon explained. She's trying to fix our main sensor array. It got a bit fried when we went through that weird space where everything was backwards. Krillmoth's antenna twitched. Backward space? Yeah, you know. Where up was down and forward was behind. Took us 3 hours to figure out how to fly straight. Pretty weird stuff. Vexathari realized his mouth was hanging open. He closed it quickly. The human was describing navigation through a temporal inversion field, something that had destroyed entire fleets in the past, and he was talking about it like it was a minor traffic problem. Captain, Vexathari said slowly, we need to get you out of that zone immediately. Can your ship move? Sure thing, Jehoon replied. We were just about to head out anyway. Mind if we stop by your station? We're running low on fuel, and we'd love to meet some friendly aliens. This is our first time meeting other space-traveling species. The Admiral's head spun. First contact with a new species was supposed to be a careful, planned event, not a casual conversation with someone calling from inside a death zone. Of course, Vexathari said, but please be very careful leaving that region. The space around you is highly unstable. Jihoon looked around at something off-screen. Hey, Hyunwoo, is the space around us unstable? A voice answered from somewhere on the human ship. No more than usual, Captain. I'm reading some interesting energy patterns, though. Mind if we take a few scans before we leave? Vexathari felt his scales stand on end. No, do not take scans. Do not interact with anything in that zone. Just leave as quickly as possible. The human captain looked surprised. Okay, if you say so. We'll head your way now. Oh, and thanks for the directions. We've been kind of lost. For the past few days. The screen went dark. Vexathari stared at it for a long moment, then turned to his crew. All stations, prepare for emergency contact protocols. Get me a direct line to Galactic Council headquarters, and somebody find me everything we have on something called the Terran Federation. Sensor Officer Krillmoth looked up from his station. Sir, they're moving. The ship is leaving the zone. How fast? Standard FTL speed, sir. Nothing unusual about their drive signature except... Except what? It looks like they modified their FTL drive with spare parts, sir. I'm seeing at least 3 different types of technology welded together. Vexathari watched as the green dot moved steadily out of the swirling chaos of the quarantine zone. The ship moved in a straight line, as if the dangerous space around it was perfectly normal. In 30 minutes, it had traveled a distance that should have taken days of careful navigation. Sir, Communications Officer Yelandra called out, I'm getting a message from the human ship. Put it through. Captain Jehoon's smiling face appeared again. We're clear of that rough patch. Thanks for the warning about the unstable space. We didn't notice anything too bad, but better safe than sorry, right? We should reach your station in about 2 hours. Oh, and our cook wanted me to ask, do you folks drink coffee? We've got some extra beans if you want to try them. The connection ended. Vexathari stood in the middle of his bridge, surrounded by confused aliens, trying to understand what had just happened. A ship had appeared from nowhere, in the most dangerous region of space, crewed by beings who treated cosmic horrors like minor inconveniences and worried about coffee supplies. He had a feeling that first contact with humanity was going to be very different from anything in the manual. Sir? Krillmoth asked quietly. Yes? What do we do now? Vexathari looked at the approaching ship on his sensors and realized he had no idea. I think, he said slowly, we're about to find out what humans are really like. 2 hours later, the human ship docked with the monitoring station. Admiral Vexathari stood in the main airlock, trying to calm his nerves. Behind him, a full diplomatic team waited in their best uniforms. First contact with a new species was supposed to be formal and careful. Nothing about this situation felt normal. The airlock doors opened with a soft hiss. Captain Lee Ji-hoon stepped through, followed by a woman in a blue uniform. Both humans looked around with wide, curious eyes, like children visiting a new playground. "Wow," Ji-hoon said, looking up at the high ceiling. "This place is huge. You must have a great engineering team." The woman beside him nodded. "I'm Commander Park Minji," she said with a slight bow. "Thank you for letting us visit. We've been traveling for months without meeting anyone." Vexathari stepped forward. "Welcome aboard Monitoring Station Kethvar. I am Admiral Vexathari of the Galactic Council Defense Fleet." He gestured to the aliens behind him. "This is our diplomatic team." The humans looked at the assembled aliens with obvious fascination. There were tall, thin ethereals with their glowing blue skin, short, furry wormkin with their multiple arms, the insect-like Kethmore with their compound eyes, and several other species, all watching the humans carefully. "This is amazing," Minji whispered to Ji-hoon. "Look at all the different species working together." One of the diplomats, a tall ethereal named Counselor Rithmak, stepped forward. "Captain Ji-hoon, we must ask you some questions about your journey here. The region you traveled through is extremely dangerous." Ji-hoon nodded. "Sure, happy to help, though I should mention we didn't think it was that dangerous. Bumpy, yes. Dangerous, not really." Rithmak's glowing skin flickered with confusion. "You traveled through the void quarantine zone. No ship has survived that journey in 800 years. Really?" Minji looked surprised. "We didn't see any other ships. Maybe they were using different routes." The aliens exchanged glances. Dr. Velkari, a Wormkin scientist, stepped forward. "What kind of shields does your ship use? What special technology protects you from reality distortions?" "Reality distortions?" Ji-hoon scratched his head. "We don't have anything special. Just standard shields and a good engineering team." "Speaking of which," a new voice said from the airlock. A young human man stepped through carrying a toolbox. "I'm Lieutenant Kim Seok-jin, Communications Officer. Sorry I'm late. I was helping Yuna with the coffee machine." Behind him came a woman with grease-stained hands and a friendly smile. "I'm Chief Engineer O. Yuna," she said. "Thanks for letting us dock. We really need some spare parts if you have them." Admiral Vexathari stared at the humans. They were so casual, so relaxed. Most species approached first contact with ceremony and fear. These humans acted like they were visiting neighbors. "Perhaps," Counselor Rithmak said carefully, "you could tell us about your ship, how it works?" "Sure." Yuna's eyes lit up. "Want to see the engine room? I'm pretty proud of what we've built." The diplomatic team followed the humans through the station corridors toward the docking bay. As they walked, Seok-jin pointed out features of the station he found interesting. "Those light panels are really efficient," he said to Dr. Velkari. "Do they run on fusion power?" "Yes," the scientist replied, surprised by the question. "How did you know?" "The frequency pattern. We use something similar, but not as advanced. Mind if I ask how you got them so stable?" Dr. Velkari found herself explaining the technology to the young human. Seok-jin listened carefully, asking smart questions. It was clear he understood the science, even if his ship's technology was more primitive. They reached the docking bay and boarded the human ship. The Soul's Pride was smaller than most Galactic Council vessels, but it felt warm and lived in. The walls were covered with pictures and personal items. In one corridor, they passed a small garden. where someone was growing vegetables under artificial lights. Hyunwoo's hobby, Jihoon explained when he saw the aliens staring. Dr. Kang Hyunwoo, our science officer, he says fresh food helps morale during long trips. The engine room was unlike anything the aliens had seen. The main FTL drive looked normal enough, but it was surrounded by dozens of modifications and additions. Cables ran everywhere, connecting different systems in ways that shouldn't work. Here's the main drive, Yuna said proudly. Standard quantum fold technology, but I've made some improvements. Counselor Rithmak examined the modifications with growing amazement. This connection here. This should cause a cascade failure. Oh, that one, Yuna laughed. Yeah, it did fail the first few times, but if you route the power through this bypass here and add a buffer here, it actually makes the whole system more stable. Dr. Velkari was studying a section where 3 different types of technology had been welded together. How did you know this would work? Trial and error mostly, Yuna said with a shrug. When something breaks, you fix it with whatever you have. After a while, you get good at making different systems work together. The aliens were speechless. The human engineer was describing advanced theoretical engineering as if it were basic repairs. She had solved problems that galactic scientists struggled with using spare parts and common sense. The coffee machine is over here, Seok-jin said, leading them to a small kitchen area. Yuna spent 3 days fixing it after we went through that purple storm. Purple storm? Admiral Vexathari asked. Yeah, really pretty, Commander Minji said. Lightning that moved in spirals made everything on the ship glow for about an hour. The aliens realized she was describing a chronoelectric tempest, a phenomenon that could age a ship to dust in minutes. The humans had flown through it and thought it was pretty. Dr. Kang Hyunwoo appeared from another corridor, carrying a datapad. He was a thin man with kind eyes and fingers stained with chemical residue. Captain, I've finished analyzing those energy readings from the zone we just left. What did you find? Jihoon asked. Fascinating stuff, Hyunwoo said, his eyes lighting up. The quantum structure of space-time in that region is completely flexible. I think someone conducted massive gravitational experiments there centuries ago. Counselor Rithmak stepped forward. You analyzed the quarantine zone? Just basic scans, Hyunwoo said. I wanted to understand why the navigation was so tricky. It looks like whoever used that space as a testing ground left some really interesting effects behind. The alien diplomat felt faint. The human scientist was casually discussing analysis of a region that terrified the galaxy's best minds. Dr. Hyunwoo, Dr. Velkari said slowly, that region is considered impossible to study. Ships that try to take detailed scans are destroyed. Hyunwoo looked confused. Really? We didn't have any problems, though I did have to recalibrate our sensors twice when the local physics kept changing. Admiral Vexathari sat down heavily on a nearby chair. The humans kept talking about impossibilities as if they were minor inconveniences. They had survived things that destroyed civilizations, and their biggest concern was a broken coffee machine. Captain Jihoon, he said finally, where exactly are you from? And how many more humans are out there? Jihoon smiled. We're from Earth, in the Sol system. As for how many of us? Well, Earth has about 8 billion people, and we've got colonies on maybe 50 worlds now. We're pretty new to interstellar travel, though. We've only had FTL drives for about 30 years. The aliens stared at him. A species with billions of members spread across dozens of worlds, and they were new to space travel. And they were exploring the galaxy by flying through regions that veteran pilots avoided at all costs. Counselor Rithmok felt like he needed to sit down too. "Captain," he said weakly, "I think we need to contact the Galactic Council immediately." 3 days later, a full Galactic Council inspection team arrived at the monitoring station. Admiral Vexithari watched their ships dock with relief. He was out of his depth with these humans, and he needed experts to help him understand what was happening. The inspection team was led by Senior Analyst Corvain, a methodical being known throughout the galaxy for his careful approach to new discoveries. Behind him came specialists in technology, biology, psychology, and warfare. If anyone could figure out these humans, it would be this team. Captain Jihoon welcomed them aboard the Soul's Pride with the same cheerful attitude he showed everyone. "More visitors, this is great. Our cook, Dong-Yun, is really excited to try cooking for different species." Senior Analyst Corvine was a tall, gray-skinned being with 4 arms and eyes that could see in multiple spectrums. He approached everything with scientific precision. "Captain, we need to conduct a thorough examination of your vessel and crew. This is standard procedure for first contact." "Of course," Jihoon said. "Whatever you need. Yuna and Hyunwoo are really looking forward to talking with your technical people." The inspection began in the engine room. Technology specialist Mirden examined the human FTL drive with growing amazement. The modifications Chief Engineer Yuna had made were brilliant, but they should have been impossible. "This connection here," Mirden said, pointing to a junction where 4 different systems met. "The power fluctuations should destroy your entire ship," Yuna nodded. "Yeah, it was tricky. Took me about 6 tries to get it right. The secret is using these buffer coils here to smooth out the energy spikes. But these buffer coils aren't designed for this type of energy." "They weren't originally," Yuna agreed, "but if you modify the crystal matrix and add some extra shielding, they work great. Want me to show you?" Myrdun watched in fascination as Yuna explained her modifications. She had taken standard technology and pushed it far beyond its design limits. More importantly, she had done it safely. Every change showed deep understanding of how different systems work together. Meanwhile, Dr. Kang Hyunwoo was showing biology specialist Veental around the ship's laboratory. The alien scientist expected to see primitive equipment, but what she found was clever improvisation. "We don't have the most advanced tools," Hyunwoo explained, "but we've learned to make do. This analyzer here is built from parts of 3 different machines. It's not as fast as a proper lab setup, but it gives accurate results." Viental examined the device. It was clearly makeshift, but the design was actually better than some professional equipment she'd seen. "How did you know to combine these components?" "Trial and error mostly," Hyunwoo said. "When you're months away from the nearest supply depot, you learn to be creative. Plus, Yuna is really good at making different technologies work together." The psychological evaluation was conducted by Dr. Silmoth, an expert in species behavior. She interviewed several crew members trying to understand how humans thought. What she discovered confused her. Lieutenant Kim Seokjin talked about their journey through dangerous space with genuine excitement. "The gravity waves in the Helix Nebula were incredible," he said. "They made music as they passed through our hull. Minji recorded the whole thing." "Weren't you afraid?" Dr. Silmoth asked. Seokjin looked puzzled. "Of what?" "It was just a nebula. A really pretty one. Gravity waves can tear ships apart." "Only if you fight them," Seokjin said. "We learned to surf them instead. Yuna figured out how to use our engines to ride the waves. It was actually faster than normal travel." Dr. Silmoth realized the humans didn't understand fear the way other species did. They saw danger as a puzzle to solve, not a threat to avoid. The weapons specialist, Commander Zektar, found something even more surprising. The Soul's Pride had almost no weapons. A few small defensive systems, nothing more. "How do you protect yourselves from hostile forces?" he asked Commander Park Minji. Minji looked confused. "We haven't met any hostile forces. Everyone we've encountered has been pretty friendly. Why are there aggressive species out here?" "The galaxy is full of dangers," Zektar said. "Pirates, territorial species, ancient defense systems." "Huh," Minji said thoughtfully. "We probably just got lucky with our route, though I guess flying through empty space helps avoid most traffic problems." Zektar realized the humans had avoided conflicts by accidentally choosing routes that no sane pilot would attempt. They had found safety in the most dangerous regions of space. The most shocking discovery came when senior analyst Cor Vine examined the ship's navigation logs. Dr. Hyunwoo proudly showed him their route through the galaxy. "We started here," Hyunwoo said, pointing to Earth on a star chart. "Then we went through this nebula cluster, around this black hole system, through these asteroid fields, and finally through that zone where we met you." Corvain stared at the route in horror. The humans had accidentally created a tour of the galaxy's most deadly locations, the Phantom Nebula, where psychic energies drove crews insane, the graveyard of ships, where gravity was so twisted that space folded in on itself, the Screaming Dark, where reality occasionally forgot to exist. "You went through all of these regions?" Corvain asked. "Sure," Hyunwoo said cheerfully. "Some were trickier than others. The place where sound traveled through vacuum was really weird. Seokjin loved it, though. He's into music." "How many crew members did you lose?" Hyunwoo looked confused. "Lose? Nobody. Why would we lose anyone?" Corvain felt his 4 hearts skip beats. "These regions? They're called the death routes. Ships that enter them are never seen again." "Really?" Hyunwoo seemed genuinely surprised. "They weren't that bad. Challenging navigation, sure. Some interesting physics anomalies. But nothing too dangerous. Though I admit the coffee tasted funny for a week after we went through that purple dimension." The inspection team met that evening to discuss their findings. Senior analyst Corvain looked around the table at his experts, all of whom seemed as confused as he felt. "Summary reports," he said tiredly. Technology specialist Myerdon spoke first. "Their engineering is primitive but brilliant. They solve advanced problems with basic tools and creative thinking. Their engineer is essentially a genius." Biology specialist Veental nodded. "Their doctor knows more about xenobiology than most university professors, despite never meeting aliens before. He learns by observation and experimentation. Psychologically," Dr. Silmoth said, "they're unlike any species I've studied. They treat the unknown as exciting rather than threatening. They see problems as puzzles rather than obstacles." Commander Zektar looked troubled. "They have no understanding of galactic politics or dangers, but they've survived things that would destroy our best warships simply by not knowing they were supposed to be afraid." Senior analyst Corvain rubbed his temples. "So we have a species that's technologically inferior but intellectually superior. They're peaceful but incredibly tough. They're naive, but have survived impossible journeys." "There's more," Myerdun said quietly. "I analyzed their ship's hull. It shows damage from At least 12 different types of cosmic phenomena that should have been instantly fatal. Somehow, their shields held. Their shields aren't that advanced, Veental pointed out. No, Myrdun agreed. But they're adaptable. The humans keep modifying them on the fly. Every time they encounter something new, they figure out how to survive. Corvain was quiet for a long moment. Recommendations? We need to contact the Galactic Council immediately, Dr. Silmoth said. These humans represent something completely new. They're explorers who thrive in conditions that kill everyone else. Are they dangerous? Corvain asked. Not intentionally, Commander Zektar said, but they could accidentally revolutionize everything. Their approach to problem-solving could change how we explore space. Corvain nodded slowly. Draft a report. Priority 1. And somebody needs to ask them where they're planning to go next. That question was answered the next morning when Captain Jihoon announced that the Soul's Pride would be departing soon. We've really enjoyed meeting everyone, he said, but we've got a schedule to keep. There's this really interesting energy signature about 50 light-years from here that Hyunwoo wants to investigate. Admiral Vexthari felt cold dread in his stomach. What kind of energy signature? Some kind of spiral pattern, Dr. Hyunwoo said excitedly. Really complex mathematical structure. Could be a natural phenomenon, could be artificial. Either way, it looks fascinating. Senior Analyst Corvain quickly checked his star charts. The energy signature was coming from the Maelstrom Cluster, a region so dangerous that most maps simply marked it as Forbidden Zone. Captain, he said carefully, perhaps you should consider a different destination. Jihoon looked confused. Why? It looks really interesting. Plus, our sensors show some beautiful color patterns in that direction. Corvain realized that trying to talk humans out of exploring dangerous space was probably impossible. They were drawn to the unknown like metal to a magnet. At least, he said weakly, please keep in contact with us? Of course, Jihoon said, with a smile. Thanks for all the help. This has been the best first contact ever. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened on the massive space station orbiting the capital world of Centauri Prime. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered in the Great Chamber, all buzzing with questions about the mysterious humans who had emerged from the void quarantine zone. High Chancellor Mordek called the session to order. The ancient being's voice carried across the chamber with authority built over centuries of leadership. We are here to discuss the species known as humans, who have made contact with our monitoring station in Sector 7. Admiral Vexithari stood at the central podium, feeling nervous under the gaze of so many powerful beings. Behind him, a holographic display showed the Soul's Pride and its impossible route through space. The humans arrived 3 days ago, Vexithari began. They emerged from the void quarantine zone, claiming to have taken what they called a shortcut through dangerous space. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Counselor Thaisara of the Ethereal Collective raised a glowing hand. How is this possible? Our best scientists have declared that region impassable. That's what we thought too, Vexthari replied. But after interviewing the crew and examining their ship, we've learned that their journey was far more remarkable than we first realized. The holographic display changed to show a star map. A red line traced the path of the Soul's Pride from Earth to the monitoring station. The route passed through region after region marked with warning symbols. They began their journey at their home system, Sol, Vexithari continued. From there they traveled through the Phantom Nebula. The assembly fell silent. The Phantom Nebula was legendary for its psychic storms that could drive entire crews insane. Ships that entered reported hearing voices from the void before all contact was lost. According to their science officer, Dr. Kang Hyun-woo, they found the nebula interesting, Vexthari said. He took extensive readings of what he called unusual electromagnetic patterns. When asked about the psychic effects, he said they noticed some strange dreams for a few days, but nothing serious. War Master Krell of the Titan Empire leaned forward. Their minds were not affected? Apparently not. Their communications officer, Lieutenant Kim Seok-jin, actually recorded what he called songs from space. He found the psychic resonance patterns musical and composed several pieces based on them. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Counselor Vreenak of the insectoid hives clicked her mandibles in disbelief. Impossible! The psychic storms have destroyed the minds of our strongest warriors. It gets more remarkable, Vexthari said. The star map updated, showing the next part of the human route. After the Phantom Nebula, they passed through the graveyard of ships. This time, several counselors stood up in alarm. The graveyard was a region where gravity had been so twisted by ancient battles that space itself folded in impossible ways. Ships entering it were crushed by forces that pulled in 12 directions at once. Their engineer, Chief O. Yuna, described it as bumpy flying, Vexthari continued. She made modifications to their inertial dampeners to compensate for what she called confused gravity. According to her logs, they actually used the gravitational anomalies to increase their speed. High Chancellor Mordek spoke in a voice like distant thunder. You're saying they turned the graveyard's death traps into a highway? In essence, yes. Yuna's modifications allowed them to surf the gravitational waves instead of fighting them. They crossed a region that normally takes months to navigate in less than a week. The display updated again. Admiral Vexithari took a deep breath before continuing. Next, they entered the screaming dark. The reaction was immediate. Half the assembly cried out in alarm. The screaming dark was a region where reality occasionally forgot to exist. Ships that entered sometimes emerged centuries later, sometimes never emerged at all, and sometimes emerged before they had entered. According to their logs, Vexithari said over the noise, they experienced what Dr. Hyun-woo called temporal fluctuations. Time moved backwards for several hours, then sideways, then in circles. Commander Park Minji's report states that she had the same conversation with Captain Ji-hoon 17 times before time straightened out. How did they survive that? Asked Counselor Zethmore of the Crystal Coalition. They treated it as a navigation problem, Vexthari replied. When time started moving backwards, they reversed their engines and flew backwards too. When time moved sideways, they turned their ship sideways. They followed the temporal currents instead of fighting them. Science Director Pol Vaughn of the Academic World stood up. That's actually brilliant. Our expeditions to that region always tried to maintain normal time flow. Fighting the temporal streams is what destroys ships. The humans didn't know they were supposed to fight it, Vexithari said, so they adapted instead. The star map showed more stops on the human journey. Each one was a region that appeared on galactic charts with warnings and death tolls. The singing void, where sound traveled through vacuum and drove listeners mad. The mirror maze, where light bent so severely that pilots lost track of which direction was real. The probability storm, where the laws of physics changed randomly every few minutes. In the singing void, Vexthari continued, they recorded what Lieutenant Seok-jin called space music. In the mirror maze, they used Commander Minji's artistic background to navigate by following the most beautiful light patterns in the probability. Storm engineer Yuna built adaptive systems that changed their ship's configuration to match whatever physics were currently in effect. War Master Krell slammed his massive fist on his chair. "This is impossible! These regions have claimed thousands of our ships!" "With respect, War Master," Admiral Vexithari said, "our ships went into those regions trying to maintain normal operations. The humans adapted to each environment they encountered. They didn't try to impose their will on dangerous space. They learned to work with it." High Chancellor Mordek raised a hand for silence. "What of their final passage through the void? Quarantine zone itself?" According to Dr. Hyunwoo's analysis, they treated it as a navigation exercise in flexible space-time. When local physics changed, they changed their approach to match. When reality became unstable, they stabilized their ship's local field to create a bubble of normal space around them. "How?" Science Director Polvan demanded. "Creative engineering and trial-and-error experimentation. Chief Yuna built field generators from spare parts and powered them with their modified FTL drive. It shouldn't have worked, but it did." The chamber fell quiet as representatives absorbed this information. Finally, Counselor Thisara spoke. "What do we know about the human homeworld? Their civilization?" According to Captain Jihoon, Earth has about 8 billion humans. They've been spacefaring for only 30 years, but they've already established colonies on 50 worlds. They describe themselves as explorers. 8 billion, War Master Krell repeated. "And they're all like these ones?" "Unknown." But Captain Jihoon spoke of their mission as routine exploration. They're apparently one of many human ships currently traveling through space. The implications of this hit the assembly like a shockwave. Not just one impossible ship, but potentially thousands of humans scattered across the galaxy, all treating deadly space as an interesting challenge. High Chancellor Mordek stood slowly. "What is their current status?" "They departed this morning," Admiral Vexithari said reluctantly. "Destination? The Maelstrom Cluster." The chamber erupted in chaos. The Maelstrom Cluster was considered the most dangerous region in known space. Even the ancient races that had built galactic civilization avoided it completely. "Did you try to stop them?" Science Director Polvan shouted over the noise. "I attempted to dissuade them," Vexithari replied. Captain Jihoon thanked me for the concern, but said the energy readings from that region looked really interesting. Dr. Hyunwoo was particularly excited about what he called complex gravitational resonance patterns. High Chancellor Mordek raised his voice to restore order. "Recommendations?" "We need to establish formal contact protocols immediately," Counselor Thisara said. "If these humans survive the Maelstrom, we'll need to understand them better." "We need to study their technology," Science Director Polvan added. "Their adaptive engineering techniques could revolutionize space travel." War Master Krell looked troubled. "We need to know if they're dangerous. A species that can navigate the death routes could pose a significant threat if they chose to." "With respect," Admiral Vexithari interjected, "they seem to be the least aggressive species I've ever encountered." "They're explorers, not conquerors, for now," War Master Krell growled. "What happens when 8 billion of them decide they want our territory?" High Chancellor Mordek considered this. "Motion to establish a human contact committee with representatives from all major councils. We will monitor their progress and develop appropriate response protocols." The motion passed unanimously. As the assembly dispersed, Admiral Vexathari found himself wondering if the humans realized they had just changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Probably not. They were too busy being excited about their next discovery to worry about politics. Somehow that made them even more remarkable. 2 weeks after the Soul's Pride disappeared into the Maelstrom cluster, the Galactic Council received an unexpected transmission. Dr. Kang Hyunwoo's cheerful face appeared on communication screens across the galaxy, with swirling colors of chaotic space visible behind him. "Hello again," he said with a bright smile. "This is Dr. Hyunwoo calling from inside the Maelstrom cluster. We wanted to let you know we're okay and share some fascinating discoveries." In the emergency meeting room on Centauri Prime, the Human Contact Committee stared at the message in shock. High Chancellor Mordek leaned forward in his chair. "How is this possible? No communication can escape the Maelstrom." "Actually," Hyunwoo continued on the recording, "the communication problem was pretty easy to solve. The cluster generates interference, but if you broadcast on rotating frequencies and use our modified signal boosters, the message gets through fine. Captain Jae-hoon wanted me to invite any interested scientists to come visit. We've found some really amazing things." Science Director Pol Von nearly fell out of his chair. "He's inviting people to visit the Maelstrom cluster?" the message continued. "The gravitational effects here are incredible. We're essentially surfing on waves of curved space-time. Yuna has made some wonderful modifications to our engines that let us ride the currents instead of fighting them. It's actually quite peaceful once you get the hang of it." War Master Krell shook his massive head. "Peaceful. He called the Maelstrom peaceful." "The most interesting discovery," Hyunwoo went on, "is that this isn't a natural phenomenon. Someone built this place. There are massive structures hidden throughout the cluster, all abandoned but still functional. We think it might be some kind of research facility from an ancient civilization." The committee members exchanged alarmed glances. If the humans had found ancient technology in the Maelstrom, the implications were staggering. "We've been taking detailed scans and recordings of everything," Hyunwoo said. "The architecture is beautiful and the technology is fascinating. Some of it still works, though we're being very careful not to touch anything important. Minji took some amazing pictures of the crystal formations growing inside the main structures." High Chancellor Mordek turned to his advisors. "How long would it take our best expedition ships to reach the Maelstrom?" "Sir?" Admiral Vexathari said quietly. "Our ships can't reach the Maelstrom. It's impossible to navigate. The humans seem to manage it. The humans aren't trying to navigate it properly. They're just adapting as they go." The message was still playing. "Oh, and Captain Jae-hoon asked me to mention that we'll be here for another week or two. There's so much to explore. After that, we're thinking of checking out those interesting energy readings near the galactic core. The ones that look like they might be artificial." Science Director Pol Von stood up abruptly. "The galactic core? They want to explore the galactic core? Anyway," Hyunwoo concluded, "we hope everyone is doing well. Thanks again for the warm welcome at the monitoring station. The coffee beans you traded us have been great. Seok-jin says, 'Hello to everyone, and Yuna wants to know if anyone has spare power conduits. Ours are working fine, but she likes to have backups. Hyunwoo out.'" The message ended, leaving the committee in stunned silence. High Chancellor Mordek spoke first. "Motion to dispatch our fastest courier ships to every major civilization in the galaxy. We need to warn them about these humans." "Warn them?" "Counselor," Thizara asked. "The humans haven't done anything threatening. They're exploring regions that have been forbidden for thousands of years," War Master Krell growled. "They're finding ancient technologies. And they're doing it all with the casual attitude of tourists on vacation. Science Director Pol Vaughn was studying the technical data from Yunwoo's message. Actually, this is remarkable. Look at these readings from inside the maelstrom. They're getting sensor data that we thought was impossible to collect. That's exactly the problem. Hi, Chancellor Mordek said. In 2 months, these humans have accomplished more exploration than our civilization has managed in centuries. They're changing the rules of what's possible. Admiral Vexithari raised a cautious hand. Perhaps we should consider learning from them instead of fearing them? War Master Krell snorted. Learn what? How to fly blindly into danger? How to adapt instead of avoiding challenges, Admiral Vexithari replied. How to solve problems creatively instead of declaring them impossible. The argument was interrupted by another incoming transmission. This time it was Captain Lee Ji-hoon himself, calling from what appeared to be the Bridge of the Soul's Pride. Behind him, the view screen showed a massive crystalline structure floating in chaotic space. "Hello, Galactic Council," Ji-hoon said, with his usual friendly manner. "I hope you got Hyunwoo's science report. We wanted to follow up with some additional information." High Chancellor Mordek activated the communication link. "Captain Ji-hoon, this is High Chancellor Mordek. We're concerned about your current location. The Maelstrom cluster is extremely dangerous." Ji-hoon looked surprised. "Dangerous? It's been pretty calm, actually. A bit bumpy when we first arrived, but once Yuna figured out the traffic patterns, it's been smooth sailing." "Traffic patterns?" "The gravitational currents," Commander Park Minji said, stepping into view. "They flow in predictable cycles. Once you map them out, you can ride them like highways." "You map the maelstrom?" Science Director Pol Vaughn asked in amazement. "Just the local area," Minji said modestly. "About 1,000 cubic light-years so far. Hyunwoo thinks we can map the whole cluster if we stay another month." War Master Krell leaned toward the communication pickup. "Captain, you need to leave that region immediately. It's been quarantined for good reasons." "Quarantined from what?" Ji-hoon asked. "We haven't found anything dangerous. Just some really interesting ruins and some beautiful crystal formations. Oh, and the space-time music here is amazing. Seokjin has been recording it for hours." "Space-time music?" Counselor Thaisara asked. Lieutenant Kim Seokjin appeared on screen, grinning excitedly. "The gravitational waves interact with the quantum fields to create harmonic resonances. It's like the universe is singing. Want to hear?" Before anyone could answer, complex musical tones filled the communication channel. The sounds were unlike anything the council members had heard. Beautiful, alien, and somehow familiar at the same time. "That's incredible," Science Director Pol Vaughn whispered. "Right?" Seokjin said. "I've composed 3 symphonies based on the patterns already. The acoustics here are perfect for quantum harmonics." High Chancellor Mordek tried to regain control of the conversation. "Captain, what we're trying to explain is that your species seems to have abilities that other races lack. You're surviving in conditions that would kill anyone else." Ji-hoon looked confused. "What kind of abilities?" "Adaptation," Admiral Vexithari said. "Problem-solving under pressure. The capacity to treat the impossible as merely difficult." "Oh," Ji-hoon said with a laugh. "That's not special abilities. That's just being human. When something doesn't work, you figure out why and fix it. When you encounter something new, you learn about it. When space gets weird, you get weird right back." Engineer O. Yuna appeared on screen carrying a toolbox. "Sorry to interrupt, Captain, but I've finished modifying the shield generators. We should be able to handle even stronger gravitational shears now." Stronger shears? War Master Krell asked. We're planning to explore the cluster's central region tomorrow, Yuna explained. The gravitational effects there are about 10 times stronger than what we've seen so far. Should be fun. The communication channel fell silent as the council members absorbed this. The humans were planning to venture into the most dangerous part of the most dangerous region in known space, and they thought it would be fun. Dr. Kang Hyun-woo joined the group on screen. We've also received some interesting signals from deeper in the cluster, artificial signals. Someone or something is still active in there. Active? High Chancellor Mordek asked weakly. Could be automated systems, could be actual inhabitants, Hyun-woo said. Either way, it's worth investigating. We've prepared first contact protocols just in case. You have first contact protocols for entities that live in the maelstrom? Counselor Thaisara asked. Same as the ones we used with you, Jihoon said cheerfully. Be polite, share coffee, learn about each other. Works pretty well so far. The conversation continued for another hour, with the humans casually describing their plans to explore regions that galactic civilization had written off as impossible. They spoke of gravitational hurricanes as navigation challenges, of reality distortions as interesting puzzles, and of ancient alien ruins as historical research opportunities. When the communication ended, the Human Contact Committee sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Science Director Polvan spoke. They're going to change everything. How? Admiral Vexthari asked. They're proving that most of what we consider impossible is just difficult. They're showing that adaptation works better than avoidance. He paused, searching for words. They're expanding the boundaries of what we think civilized beings can accomplish. High Chancellor Mordek nodded slowly. The question is, what do we do about it? Learn from them, Admiral Vexathari said firmly. Study their methods, understand their approach to problem-solving, and hope, Counselor Thaisara added, that 3 weeks after first contact, the Galactic Council's most advanced science vessel arrived at the coordinates where the Soul's Pride had last been seen. The ship was loaded with the finest technology the galaxy could offer. Advanced sensors, powerful shields, weapons that could crack planets, and navigation systems that cost more than most civilizations' entire space programs. Captain Morthul of the exploration vessel Infinite Wisdom expected to find wreckage. Instead, he found the human ship calmly orbiting a massive crystalline structure that hadn't existed on any star charts. Worse, there were 3 other unknown vessels nearby, all broadcasting friendly greetings in languages the Universal Translator had never encountered. This is Captain Lee Ji-hoon of the Soul's Pride, came the familiar voice over the communication channel. Welcome to Maelstrom Station. We've been expecting you. Maelstrom Station? Captain Morthul asked weakly. That's what we're calling this place, Jihoon replied cheerfully. The original builders didn't leave any signs. We've set up a basic first contact center in the main docking bay. The local residents are very interested in meeting more galactic species. Captain Morthul looked at his sensor officer, who was staring at her screens in confusion. Sir, she whispered, I'm reading at least 12 different alien technologies. None of them match anything in our databases. On the main screen, Captain Jihoon's face was replaced by a view of the Soul's Pride's docking bay. Strange beings moved around casually, some floating, some walking on too many legs, some existing as patterns of light that somehow conveyed personality. In the middle of it all, Dr. Kang Hyun-woo was showing a crystalline entity, something on a data pad, while Lieutenant Kim Seok-jin played music for a group of beings that looked like living equations. How? Captain Morthel asked. How what? Jihoon responded. How did you establish contact with entities from the maelstrom? How are you communicating with them? How are you all still alive? Oh, that, Jihoon said with a laugh. Turns out the dangerous reputation was mostly a misunderstanding. The gravitational effects aren't hostile. They're a defense system. Once we figured out the right approach frequencies and convinced the automated systems we weren't invaders, everything became much friendlier. Chief Science Officer Telvaran, of the Infinite Wisdom, leaned toward the communication pickup. Captain Jihoon, we've brought gifts for your crew. Advanced technology that should help with your explorations. That's very kind, Jihoon said. Though you should know we've learned quite a bit from our new friends here. Want to come aboard and see? An hour later, the Council science team was touring the Soul's Pride in a state of shock. The ship had been transformed. The modifications Engineer Yuna had made were now integrated with technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics casually. This gravitational dampener, Chief Science Officer Telvaran said, staring at a device that hummed with impossible harmonies. This is theoretical technology. We've spent centuries trying to build something like this. Oh, that, Yuna said, wiping her hands on a rag. The resonance builders taught me how to tune our systems to local space-time. Pretty clever folks. They think in mathematics that most species can't even perceive. The resonance builders? The crystalline entities. They've been living in the maelstrom for about 50,000 years. Apparently, they originally came from another galaxy and set up this place as a research station. They study gravitational harmonics. Dr. Kang Hyunwoo appeared, accompanied by a being that looked like a walking equation surrounded by silver light. This is Theorem Singer, he said as if introducing an old friend. She's been teaching me about multi-dimensional physics. The equation being spoke in mathematical tones that somehow translated as, the small soft thinkers learn quickly. They grasp concepts that rigid minds reject. Most interesting. Chief Science Officer Telvaran felt his worldview cracking. You're teaching mathematics to cosmic entities? Learning from them, mostly, Hyunwoo said, though I did show them some human approaches to problem-solving. They found our trial and error methods fascinating. Apparently, most advanced species try to calculate everything perfectly before attempting anything. Because, Theorem Singer added, miscalculation in complex space equals death. But small soft thinkers accept failure as learning. This permits survival where calculation predicts impossibility. Commander Park Minji joined them, leading a tour group of floating beings that looked like jellyfish made of starlight. These are the light dancers, she explained. They're artists who paint with gravity waves. They've been showing me techniques that make our visual art look primitive. One of the light dancers pulsed with colors that translated as, human friend sees beauty in chaos flows, most rare among solid thinkers. We share joy techniques gladly. Lieutenant Kim Seok-jin appeared with what looked like a small tornado made of music. This is Harmony Spiral, he said excitedly. She's been teaching me to compose in gravitational frequencies. The pieces we're creating can actually stabilize local space-time. The science team followed the humans through corridors now filled with impossible technologies and beings that shouldn't exist. In the engine room, they found Engineer Yuna working alongside mechanical entities that existed as pure mathematical functions. We call them the logic shapers, Yuna explained. They help optimize our systems by solving engineering problems in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Really cuts down on trial and error time. A logic shaper communicated through equations that resolved into meaning, Human builders work with insufficient data, yet achieve functional solutions. This contradicts optimization protocols but produces superior adaptive capacity. We study this paradox with great interest. Chief Science Officer Tel Varan was taking frantic notes. This is incredible. You've established working relationships with species that exist outside normal reality. They're not outside reality, Dr. Hyunwoo corrected. They just use different parts of it than most biological species. Once you understand that consciousness doesn't require biology, communication becomes much easier. Captain Morthul, who had remained silent during the tour, finally spoke. Captain Ji-hoon, the Galactic Council sent us here with an offer. Our finest technology, safe passage through Council space, and detailed star charts. We want to establish formal relations with humanity. Ji-hoon smiled. That's very generous. Though after what we've learned here, I'm not sure we need most of that. What do you mean? Well, Yuna said, patting a device that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. The gravitational navigation systems the resonance builders taught us work better than any conventional FTL. And the logic shapers have shown us engineering techniques that make most galactic technology look primitive. Plus, Seokjin added, the light dancers have taught us how to communicate through dimensional harmonics. We can send messages anywhere in the galaxy instantly. And the quantum gardeners, Minji said, gesturing to some beings that looked like living probability clouds, have been showing us how to cultivate stable space-time. We can literally grow safe passage through dangerous regions. Chief Science Officer Tel Varan sat down heavily. You've learned more in 3 weeks than our civilization has discovered in 3 millennia. It helps that we didn't know we weren't supposed to be able to talk to them, Hyunwoo said. Most species approach these entities with fear or assumptions about superiority. We just introduced ourselves and asked if they wanted to share coffee. Coffee? Universal friendship offering, Captain Ji-hoon explained. Works on most carbon-based life forms, and some of the others find the concept interesting even if they can't drink it. A new being approached. Something that looked like a small star wearing robes. Theorem Singer provided translation. Wisdom Keeper Enlightenment wishes to address the rigid mind visitors. The star being spoke in harmonics that translated as, Your council fears change. You see small soft thinkers as threat to order. This is error. They are catalyst for growth. Embrace cooperation or stagnate in fear patterns. Captain Morthul felt something fundamental shifting in his understanding. What are you suggesting? The small, soft thinkers offer gifts, Wisdom Keeper Enlightenment continued. Not technology or territory, but perspective. They show that impossible is merely difficult. That adaptation exceeds calculation. That friendship transcends fear. We're planning to head toward the galactic core next, Captain Ji-hoon said casually. Our new friends say there are some really interesting phenomena there. Ancient civilizations, cosmic engineering projects, maybe even the builders of the original hyperlane network. The galactic core is forbidden, Captain Morthul said automatically. Forbidden by whom? Yuna asked. If the original builders are still there, shouldn't someone try to say hello? Chief Science Officer Tel Varan looked at the impossible technologies surrounding him, at the entities that treated physics as a suggestion, at the humans who had turned the galaxy's most dangerous region into a peaceful research station. What would you want from the Galactic Council? Friendship, Ji-hoon said simply. Maybe some trading partners. We're always interested in meeting new people and learning new things. We could share what we've learned, Hyunwoo added. The entities. Here are interested in meeting other species as long as they approach with respect instead of fear. And Seokjin. The news reached the Galactic Council chambers like a shockwave. High Chancellor Mordek stood before the emergency assembly, holding a datapad that contained information that would change how every species in the galaxy thought about space. Exploration. The human vessel Soul's Pride departed Maelstrom Station this morning, he announced to the packed chamber. Their destination is the galactic core. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Representatives from hundreds of species began shouting at once. The galactic core had been forbidden territory for over 10,000 years. It was the graveyard of the first civilization, the place where reality itself had been damaged by technologies, too powerful for the universe to contain. War Master Krell stood up, his massive frame towering over nearby delegates. This cannot be allowed. The core regions contain weapons that could destroy entire star systems. According to Captain Jihoon, High Chancellor Mordek continued over the noise. They received an invitation. The chamber fell silent. An invitation? Counselor Thaisara asked weakly. From the entities they encountered in the Maelstrom. Apparently the beings living there maintain communication with others in the galactic core. The humans have been formally invited to visit what they're calling the library. Science Director Pol Vaughn leaned forward. What library? High Chancellor Mordek consulted his datapad. According to Dr. Kang Hyun-woo's final transmission, the AI-bit galactic core contains a vast repository of knowledge maintained by the surviving members of multiple ancient civilizations. They have been waiting for a species mature enough to handle the information. And they think humans are mature enough? War Master Krell demanded. Apparently the test isn't technological advancement, High Chancellor Mordek replied. It's the ability to approach the unknown with curiosity rather than fear, and to form cooperative relationships with entities radically different from themselves. The implications hit the assembly like a meteor. The humans had passed a test that galactic civilization hadn't even known existed. They had been judged worthy of knowledge that the galaxy's oldest and most advanced species had been denied. Admiral Vexithari, who had been monitoring communications with the human ship, stood up. If I may, High Chancellor, we've been tracking their route toward the core. They're not traveling alone. Explain. Sensor readings indicate at least 50 vessels accompanying the Soul's Pride. Ships of unknown configuration, using technologies that don't match anything in our databases. The chamber erupted again. Counselor Zethmore of the Crystal Coalition called out over the noise, "Are they being escorted or captured?" According to their last transmission, Admiral Vexithari said, they're being guided by what Captain Jihoon called new friends who wanted to show them the way. The energy signatures suggest these are the same types of entities they encountered in the Maelstrom. Science Director Pol Vaughn was rapidly calculating. If the humans have formed an alliance with entities from the galactic core, the balance of power in the galaxy has just shifted completely. High Chancellor Mordek raised a hand for order. There's more. Captain Jihoon transmitted a message for the Galactic Council before entering the core exclusion zone. The main display activated, showing Captain Lee Jihoon's familiar face. But now his bridge background showed impossible star patterns and what looked like structures the size of solar systems floating in the distance. "Hello, Galactic Council," Jihoon said with his usual cheerful manner. "We wanted to thank you for the warm welcome and let you know about our plans. The entities we met in the Maelstrom have invited us to visit their colleagues in the galactic core. Apparently, there's a lot of history there that might interest everyone." Dr. Kang Hyun-woo appeared beside the captain. The scientific opportunities are incredible, he said excitedly. We're talking about civilizations that predate galactic history, technologies that work on principles we haven't discovered yet, and best of all, they're willing to share. There are some conditions, though, Commander Park Minji added, stepping into view. The knowledge they're offering isn't for conquest or control. It's for exploration, cooperation, and growth. Species that want to learn need to approach with the right intentions. Lieutenant Kim Seokjin joined the group. They've been watching galactic civilization for thousands of years, waiting for someone to pass their tests. They're really excited that we made it. Apparently, most species get stuck at the fear of the unknown stage. Engineer Oyuna appeared, carrying what looked like a tool made of crystallized space-time. They've already started sharing some basic technologies with us. This dimensional spanner can repair things by fixing them in parallel universes where they're not broken. Really useful for maintenance work. The council chamber was dead silent as representatives absorbed what they were hearing. The humans were casually discussing technologies that violated known physics while treating a meeting with godlike entities as a social visit, Captain Jihoon continued. We'll probably be in the core regions for a few months, learning and exploring. After that, we're thinking of checking out some of the other galaxies. Our new friends say there are some really interesting civilizations in Andromeda. Other galaxies? High Chancellor Mordek whispered. We'll stay in touch, Jihoon added. The communication methods the ancients taught us work across any distance. Oh, and we're authorized to extend some invitations to other species who might be interested in learning. Dr. Hyun-woo stepped forward. The ancient entities are willing to meet with representatives from any civilization that approaches with genuine curiosity and peaceful intentions. They're particularly interested in species that have overcome fear-based thinking. There's just one requirement, Commander Minji said. Any species that wants to visit needs to prove they can work cooperatively, with others radically different from themselves. The ancients won't share their knowledge with species that see differences as threats. We'll be sending a detailed report when we return, Captain Jihoon concluded. Until then, take care of yourselves, and if anyone has more coffee beans to trade, we'll take all you can spare. The ancient entities find caffeine fascinating from a biochemical perspective. The transmission ended, leaving the Galactic Council in stunned silence. Finally, War Master Krell spoke. What do we do now? We adapt, Admiral Vexithari said firmly. The humans have just opened doors that have been closed for millennia. We can either learn from them or be left behind. Counselor Thesora was studying readings from the core regions. The energy signatures coming from that area have increased tenfold since the humans arrived. Something is waking up out there. Or being awakened, Science Director Polvan added. The question is, are we ready for what comes next? High Chancellor Mordek looked around the chamber at representatives from hundreds of worlds, all struggling to understand a universe that had suddenly become larger and stranger than they had imagined. Motion to establish the Galactic Cooperation Initiative, he said finally. Purpose: to prepare our civilizations for potential contact with the ancient entities using human methods of peaceful exploration and cooperative learning. Seconded, Admiral Vexithari said immediately. Thirded, Science Director Polvan added. The motion passed with only War Master Krell abstaining. As the Assembly began discussing implementation details, a new transmission arrived from the Galactic Core. This time it wasn't from the humans. The signal came from something vast and ancient, speaking in harmonics that made reality itself resonate. Greetings, younger children of the Spiral Gardens, the voice said, each word carrying the weight of eons. The small bright ones have spoken, well of you. When you are ready to learn, grow, become, the pathways will open. Until then, we watch, hope, wait, with patient cycles. The transmission ended, leaving the council with the knowledge that they were no longer alone in the galaxy. Ancient powers were stirring, awakened by humans who treated the impossible as merely challenging and who offered friendship to entities beyond imagination. In the depths of space, the soul's pride continued its journey into the unknown, followed by an escort of ships that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Captain Jihoon was on the bridge, listening to Lieutenant Seok-jin play a song that harmonized with the cosmic background radiation, while Engineer Yuna worked on modifications that would let them survive in the space between galaxies. "Captain," Dr. Hyunwoo called from his science station, "you need to see this. The ancient entities are showing us the construction plans for something called a galactic bridge. We could literally connect our galaxy to others." "Sounds interesting," Jihoon replied. "Think the council would be interested in helping with a project like that?" "If they're ready for it," Commander Minji said, looking at sensor readings from their escort ships. "The ancients are talking about bringing together multiple galactic civilizations for the first time in cosmic history." "Well," Captain Jihoon said with a smile, "I guess we'll find out how ready everyone is for the next big adventure." Behind them, the galaxy they had left continued to spin in its ancient patterns, but now it was a galaxy where the impossible had become possible, where entities that had slept for eons were awakening, and where a small ship full of humans had changed the rules of what civilized beings could accomplish. The universe was about to become a mu.